My name is Maria Garcia. I'm the author of the book We Made San Diego. This is my second book, and the purpose of this book was to tell about our history in San Diego because there's so much history and we're not in the history books. I'm very proud of my book because it informs us about the many contributions Latinos, Mexican Americans, Chicanos have made to San Diego. Many of these contributions are not found in history books or even known by our own community. The Chicano Federation was formed in 1969 by a group of organizations such as GI Forum, Association of Mexican American Educators, and MAC, to name only a few. The purpose of the organization was to advocate for the Chicano community. The first chairperson was the late Pete Chacon. Chacon would later become the first Latino assemblyman in San Diego. We've talked about the Chicano Federation some, but I'd like to talk about a little bit about the first director we had at the Chicano Federation. His name was Jesse Ramirez. He came to San Diego as a sailor, like many other San Diegans, and he was retired when he applied for the Federation job. Basically, Jesse was conservative, but I think the activities changed him quickly. He was, at that time, we had an incident where San Diego Gas and Electric Company had used the typical little taco stand with a Latino dressed as con el sombrero and all the typical stereotype things. And at that time, there was a picket at the Gas and Electric Company. And this really kind of evolved from there. Jesse started working more and more on very important issues. He was also threatened. The KKK used to picket in front of his house, and they had the Brown Berets sleeping in the living room. And as his daughter told me, you go on a date and you come home, and your date sees all these guys laying on your living room floor because they're there to protect your father. It wasn't really conducive to dating. Jesse had been working with others about the building under the bridge, which is now the cultural center. But at that time, it was a building. That's what it was, just a building. And it was being negotiated to put Chicano Federation there. And so what happened was, behind everybody's back, the Mayor Kern, made a deal with the state of California that the Highway Patrol would go in there, and that that Federation would have to settle for something else. Well, people were really angry because it was a lot of the elders in the community, which is very interesting because basically they were conservative. They were not going to think about doing anything, but they were so angry that they had sat through all these meetings thinking that this is in good faith, we're going to get the building, blah, blah. So people were very angry, and Mayor Kern set up a meeting, which was supposed to be with Jesse and a few people from the community. Well, as it turned out, it was supposed to be in the mayor's office, and it was moved to the city council chambers, and I was there. So I'm going to tell you, I remember it was a packed house, and Mayor Kern was so angry. And one of the things he said, Jesse told him, was, this is a movida. And a movida meaning a plan, a move against us. And Kern was, I can't emphasize how angry he was. Actually, he said a couple of choice words about what he thought. Jesse spoke about what we had negotiated. Jesse then said something like, I can look into the future, and I have a feeling that this building is going to burn down. And what you're going to be doing is sweeping up the ashes. Well, the mayor said, this is a threat. Judge said, no, it's not a threat. It's just something I see in the future. The building was negotiated for the Chicano Federation. Jesse had, had the quality of being able to deal with the very conservative people as well as the activists. And he did everything in his power, I think, during his period there to bring the community in, to try to bridge between the this and them, Jesse was certainly a perfect person for the first director of the Chicano Federation. Unfortunately, Jesse passed away in 2021, but he did give us a lot of information, which I have on tape, all about the Federation and what happened. My next guest will be Irma Castro. Irma was also a director of Chicano Federation. How many years were you there?
Well, I was there 13 years, I think. But they were a wonderful time, and they were also the most challenging time in terms of the Chicano Federation. We had gone through a period in which there had been a growth at the Federation, also a lot of advocacy, but also there hadn't been a very strong management piece. As a consequence, and really because of the gaining of clout by the Latino community, certain elements in the city really set out to see how they could destroy the organization. And so you would hear the repeated pieces about drug running and guns and and embezzlement. I mean, any series of things. That there was actually a grand jury investigation into the Federation, having a look at a whole series of things, from its contracts to the people that were managing it, etc. In the middle of that, I was brought in. And here I was, a mother with 2 little kids. And I had, all the good kinds of credentials that people like, academics, etc. But more than that, I think it was I had truly a passion about Latinos, Chicanos having a place at the table. Chicanos being able to have a voice, being able to be a part of decisions that were made that directly impacted our community. I also had management experience, and that helped. So I came on board.
Can you tell us what you did before you came, where you were raised, a little bit about your background?
Well, I was born and raised in Logan. I was the oldest of 3. My parents' families, well, let's see, on my father's side, they've been here since, sometime in the 1800s, and my mother's family came in 1917. That was a little while ago. And I grew up basically in Logan, and I went to school there. My parents strongly believed in education. They really felt that it was the only way that we were going to have any future. And so we lived there. My mother worked in the cannery. My father worked at the transit company. He also was a janitor. Eventually, we moved to Coronado, and it wasn't because we gained wealth. It was because my father went to work as a maintenance man for the city. And the city had ordinance that said that if you worked in Coronado, you had to live in Coronado. So we went to live in the Navy projects. Was there. Wound up coming back to San Diego. And I always had kind of a vision that I was going to go to college. And I had the wonderful experience that I had an uncle who had gone to college when he got back from the war, and a cousin who had also gone to college. So I went to San Diego State as a chemistry major. Can you believe that? But it really was a place where it cements that who you are and what you are determines the way that people behave. And here I was, this Chicana, going to a school that was predominantly white, and I wasn't too dumb. And that somehow didn't settle well. I wasn't being a teacher, and I wasn't being a social worker. How dare you be a chemist? But it was just part of it. So that's a little bit about how I came about. I eventually, as you know, I now got my BA from San Diego State. I got a master's in urban development. And I also was a research fellow at MIT in the Department of Urban Studies and Planning. All of that was prior to coming to the Federation. But I still had that passion. And we actually wound up running La Escuelita and doing some educational projects in the community before I tackled the whole thing of going to the Federation. So is that helpful?
What was the La Escuelita?
La Escuelita was really an outgrowth of a project about being able to enhance people's English skills. So we had English, we did mathematics, we did literacy. Out of the escuelita, because we took care of little kids, the parents came, and so they had little kids at home, so you took care of them. Out of that came the song Chicano Park, because Chunky would come in and play for the kids. And so he developed a song for them called Chicano Park, which, as many of us know, has been really a standard for the music about our looking at our own culture as a way in which to be successful. So that was the escuelita.
How did you end up at the Federation?
I've wound up at the Federation because I had this friend called Maria Garcia who called me and said, you have to apply for this job. And I said, no, I'd be crazy. I said, that place is falling apart. And she said, no, try it. Well, I said, you know what? I was teaching at San Diego State. And I said, well, give it a try. What the heck? But, well, let's see. I got chosen. And it was very difficult for me because I said earlier I had 2 little children. And it's how do you decide about doing something when you have 2 children that depend on you? Well, I decided that my children I wanted a future for them. And the future would depend on my own involvement in community and in the kinds of changes I could do. So the kids and I became a package deal. And I went to the Federation. As I said, I was there for 13 years. My children will tell you it was the most fascinating time of their life. They grew up with the kinds of values about caring about community and caring about people and what people were about. More than that, I think both of them very strong sense of justice and a very strong sense of equity and what that means. And an incredible sense of family. So it was interesting. And so, but at the same time, it was stuff that I brought in to the Federation. And we saw incredible amounts of things that we had to deal with. Beside trying to rescue the Federation in terms of its reputation, one, and how do you battle a grand jury indictment? How do you do those kinds of things? It was a step-by-step kind of thing. When we did that, and we were able to prove that there was really no malfeasance, that there had been incredible number of documents and backtracking. It was also a time of change in this country, so that as you had issues that had to deal with poverty, the establishment of neighborhoods, giving power back, much of that was being integrated. And the rules were not being written, so the Federation had done what it could. We did that. We took on issues that were difficult, the issues of employment. How do you have equitable employment? And what do you do? Did that. And as you know, that resulted in several consent decrees, primarily San Diego Police Department and with the County of San Diego.
What is the consent decree?
Consent decree is basically a court-ordered action to be taken by an organization in order to be able to gain equity. And so that was something. That is incredible work. And it was something that was very important because certainly the county and the police department did not want to be the defendants in that case. They want to be able to hire and fire as they please without issues about, is this equitable representation, is this just, etc. So that was one. They did challenge us in the courts, and we had no money, but we had a wonderful attorney, Richard Castillo, who just recently passed, but who had a real passion for this. And we were able to put together all the documents that basically said to the county, this is how the county, let me prove to you how the county discriminates. And we could prove it by using the county's own documents. That happened twice. The second time, the county decided to hire a professional demographer. But by now the courts had already recognized that I had expertise in the area of demography, so they let that ride, and so we won again. But what that meant was that if you look at the county workforce today, you're going to see a diversity in terms of people who are employed. That it's not just a male white or a female white organization, but one that is spread throughout, from management all the way to line jobs, that there is some diversity. So that was one that we took on. We took on the issues of bilingual education and equitable education. Incredible things happening in terms of dropout rates and what that was about. We took on issues of housing. We took on issues, some of them are just incredible. How do we as a community develop? How do we bring together more organizations? At one point, there were probably 50 or 60 Latino organizations banding together to talk about those issues that impact on people of color, because it just wasn't about us as Latinos. It was about African Americans. It was about Asian Americans. It was about people of color not having a voice in the community in which they resided and the communities in which they pay taxes. So nobody stops to think about that. Perhaps there are two things that I always think have been really, really important with that. As a result of those organizations, something started to really poke us in the face, which is we needed to have representation at all levels. And so we had a meeting. I love these. Just call up all the different organizations and says, we've got to come together. And out of that meeting came what became the Leadership Training Institute. Really, this was about preparing people in our own communities to have representation in public bodies, whether it be public committees, whether it be boards, but that we have that representation, and that it not just be limited to one or two people that the establishment saw as acceptable, but that it would be people who had had training. The second is really not one that has the Federation in the highlights, but it was one that was very closely associated. That's the issue of district elections. For years, we could select candidates by district and we could get who we wanted. But when the general election, everybody voted, we were out of that race. There was no way people were going to vote for us. As a consequence, a lawsuit gets filed, and we worked with that. We won that lawsuit, where the city becomes mandated to have district elections. The result of that, whether people want to accept it or not, is that today we have 3 Latinos on the city council, we have Asian Americans, we have African Americans on the council, and we have a mayor who is Asian American and also is gay. See, those things would never have happened if people like you, or friends, people who said, I'm willing to do this because it's important, it means that I matter. So those things have been part of what the Federation was about. It was a time in which advocacy was an important piece. We had to deal with services for everyone. But we really worked on these issues about how do we have an equitable place for us to be able to be part of the decision-making process.
I want to add a little piece about our mayor. The mayor is also Latino, and he stood right here, as a matter of fact, to identify the many cultural groups he represents, and then the fact that he was gay. No one would have ever said, I'm gay, African American, Chicano, whatever. And so that was a big change too.
Yes.
It was okay to be all these different flavors.
You know, just the fact that I could be who I am is so important, just because now I have a place, I have meaning. And that's really, when we look at what are the issues around equity and power, it's about recognition of the people and the diversity in our communities and how they have an equal voice. Sorry to say that there are times in which you say there is no equal voice, but those times change, and that will happen again.
Under your leadership, the first building senior center, whatever you want to call it, was built.
Yes,
You and
we
Jess
tried.
Huddle.
Hey, yes, we tried all sorts of things. We took ownership. We wound up buying our first property, which was our home, right in Sherman Heights, and just a wonderful piece. I mean, there's nothing like, and we all know it on a personal level, when you can buy your own home, you've now established who you are and what you are. That was just a part of it. We also built the first kinds of apartments for seniors. And that was sort of just a wish, a dream, and you make it come true. Those things are a piece of how organizations establish themselves.
Vista Serena is still running.
It's still there and still has seniors.
Yes.
And they still have wonderful time together.
Yeah. And that was, I think, what I really noticed. I chaired the committee for Vista Serena, was that these seniors seemed to, there's another one, and they talk Spanish and they act like me and they know about having menudo and all of this stuff. And they loved having a place where they were all together.
Yes. Yeah. It was a place where you could be who you are naturally, where you could share things with people who had similar things to share. And yet, be a part and independent. And that's been a piece that has continued. I've had the privilege of working with people who are still at Vista Serena, and we still talk about the kinds of things about when do you get the new refrigerator, but when is the next party? Also.
They love the party part.
And they love it.
And I would say most of them were in their 70s or 80s, and
that's right.
They love the fact that they could get together.
Yes, they love it. They love it. So that's been a piece of it, is how do you provide that growth as an organization in one way, which is really how do you build assets? How do you build stability? How do you make it really a functioning organization? In many ways, we're no different from the Red Cross. The Red Cross went through the same thing. It spent times with, being the good people in a war, to where they eventually deal with services, etc. And that's the same kind of growth pattern that the Federation has gone through. But part of this is how do you gain and sustain that part? Because it gives even more importance to your voice. It gives you a sense of security in where you are as an organization. Plus it also provides further to say, you know what, we all have a voice, and we all should be able to talk about with passion about those things that matter to us.
Is there anything about your period at the Chicano Federation that I haven't asked you and you would like to bring up?
No, Maria. You could ask that question. I could go on for 3 hours, and I don't think this podcast is going to...
I don't think we have quite 3 hours.
No, we don't. No, let me tell you, I think that the one thing that just stays in my mind is that really the Federation was about change, and how do you create that? How do you maintain that? And how do you agonize through what may seem to be like not so good times to good times? And I think I certainly learned it because during the time I was there, we went through each one of those periods. But the other is, how do you hand it off in a way that continues to empower a community and also says, here we are, we're a brotherhood, we're a sisterhood, we're what's going to build things to make it better, not just for ourselves, but that will make it better for people who today are disenfranchised.
Thank you, Irma. Thank you so much for sharing so much history. Ray followed you.
Thank you for giving me the voice. It's just, we often don't hear it. Sometimes we have to go back. And you've done this, which I think is important. We have to know what our history is in order for us to be able to go forward. Sometimes we go forward without knowing what happened in the past. There are many people whose shoulders we stand on. And I can't even start with having a look at what's happened in our communities and people who got involved in union organizing or look into voting back in the late 40s, the people who used to just go and say, let's register to vote. I mean, all of those folks who believed truly that we needed to be there. So,
Okay.
if nothing, let's phrase that.
Okay. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
My next guest is Liz Ramirez, who is the current director of the Chicano Federation. Liz, thank you for being here. And I want to talk to you about where the Federation is going, but I also want to talk to you about your childhood. Where did you grow up? What did you do? What were your interests?
Maria, muchas gracias. Thank you for having me.
okay.
It's such an honor, and I love that we're having this conversation today and just really, capturing the rich history of Chicano Federation. I was born in Imperial Valley. I grew up in La Frontera, in between Mexicali and El Centro, going back and forth my whole childhood between the borders. My family immigrated to El Centro when I was 5 years old. I come from a family of braceros, farm workers. That's how my family immigrated to the United States. And so I think that's how I really connected with the work that Chicano Federation has done and the history. I grew up low income. I'm the first in my family to go to college. Really reflect the population and the community that we serve. And so I was always a fan of the Federation from afar. And now it's just an honor to be a part of the amazing work and history of the organization, because I get to serve people like my own family, my tios, my tias, my mother, and that's what I love, the work that we do.
There's so much turmoil in this country right now.
Yeah.
And the Federation, I know, is taking time to help others in it. Mm-hmm. What are you worried about? Or are you worried about anything?
Yeah, we're starting the new year, 2025, and New Year is always a year of fresh new ideas and hope. And it was really hard for me to turn to a place to hope in 2025 when we have a presidency coming in that is very vocally anti our communities. But, I find refuge in the work that we do, in the resiliency of our community. I know at the end of the day, we're going to be okay. We always are. We're, warriors and fighters, and we have a lot of light within us. We don't need government. We need each other, and we need people, and we need our community. And I think that's what really gives me hope. And I think that's why Chicano Federation is so important. We're going into really tough times. Our communities are scared. I got calls, the day after the election of people saying, if somebody knocks on my door, do I open the door, right? And we are here to really give that trust in our community, and that they know that they're not alone, right?
I know the Federation has, multiple interests. But right now, give me two of the things you're working on that could make a difference in our community.
Wow, there's so many things. I know had the pleasure of sitting and hearing behind the scenes of Irma speaking and how LTI was created, the Leadership Training Institute, and I'm so proud that the Leadership Training Institute, after 20 years I had been gone because of lack of funding, we brought it back, and I am just so thankful of all of the past leaders and work and organizers and activists that have done great work to get to where we are today. But we still have a long way to go, right? There's still so many inequities in our community. And that's why I think the Leadership Training Institute is so important. It's not enough to have people that look like us in position of power. We need people that really share the values of the community and the people that they serve. And so I am so excited. We just graduated this past year, the first cohort after the 20-year hiatus. We have another cohort running right now where we have 30 fellows partnered with Latina mentors and really, really focused on community work. And so they are working hard on their capstone projects that have to do with areas that our communities really are in need: affordable housing, education, advocacy, and health. And so I am really excited about the good work that's going to continue to happen. You know, the criteria for LTI, it's not just a leadership program where you check the box. It's a leadership program where you are committed to really connect and build with community. And so the program is not a 10-month program that you're done. It's, what are you going to continue to do to connect with community and give to community beyond the 10-month curriculum of the program.
We had a conversation the other day with Ray Uceta, and he's very proud of how the budget increased for the Federation in the time he was there. How many buildings or apartments, what do we look like as far as affordable housing?
Yeah, so we have 8 buildings of affordable housing. We have buildings mainly in central San Diego, in City Heights, in North Park, in South Park, in Barrio Logan. We have 2 buildings that are for our wonderful senior community, Vista Serena, and our one in Barrio Logan. And we're just so excited to be able to have a safe place that people can call home. We have over 500 residents living in our 8 buildings. And that's something that I really look forward to the future, to continue to work on our portfolio so that it's something that we're really proud of, to continue to, build and expand our affordable housing, because we know that that's such a need in our communities. And beyond affordable housing, it's not just about having a safe place that you can call home. It's about building community. So, for example, during the holidays, I went and I had cafecito and tamales with our residents and champurrado, and just talked about the new year. And that's what I love of building that sense of community, and also seeing how we can help them in other avenues, not just the housing, right? But how do we connect you with classes for digital skills and show you how to create a WhatsApp or a Facebook so that you can stay connected with your family? Or how do we connect you with resources and support or a better job? And so I'm excited to continue to bring those resources and support to all of our 500 plus residents.
Does the Federation have a website?
Yes, you can go to chicanofederation.org and, listen and hear about our programs, read more. Our annual report is just there, so you can learn more, get involved, volunteer, and stay connected with us.
Okay. Do you have a vision that maybe the board hasn't taken on, but you'd like to see in the future?
Yeah. I think coming in, I think what I was most excited about Chicano Federation is the rich history, right? I am an activist and a peleonera at heart. In college, I was very involved. I'm still continue to be very involved in our communities. And while times have changed, from 56 years ago where we were first started, there's still a lot of gaps in our community. And so I want to bring a lot more of that advocacy and activism to the organization. And that's why we're really invested in things like the Leadership Training Institute and community building. We led a Get Out the Vote campaign where we reached out to more than 10,000 individuals with over 20 organizations. And that's what I want to bring back. I want the Chicano Federation to continue to be a convener, to bring partners together, together, nonprofit partners, our government partners, our community, and really listen to the needs of the community, because we can do so much when we work together. And so that's my hope, that we continue to build together, that we, focus on seeing what is my piece, because everybody has a piece in making the community better. So really connecting with each other and building together to, at the end, help our community prosper. We really want to see our families thriving and not just surviving, right? And we know that there's so many areas that we need to invest in, our affordable housing, livable wages, our education of our little ones, things that are still so important today. So I look forward to continue to work with partners and community to make, San Diego really, really strong.
How many people do you serve?
We serve 50,000 individuals and families each year. 10,000 of those are children.
Now you said you brought the term children. Do you still have preschools?
We do. We have a preschool in Barrio Logan. We currently have openings. If you have little ones, it's a full day preschool. So we open up the doors at 6:30 in the morning and close at 5:30. So folks can go to work. It's free. We have a therapist on site as well to work with the little ones. And then we also have a lot of programs to help childcare providers, the children, and also the parents. So we do home visiting, working with providers, and that's what I love, I think, about our programs, that it's not just working with the child or working with the parents. We're also supporting the providers to make sure that, they are having livable wages themselves, but that they're also getting that support curriculum that they need so that our children are developing, growing, and learning every day.
How much was it, what you imagined the Federation to be and what the Federation is? Was there a big difference? Did you learn a lot the first 6 months? Or?
Oh, yes. You hear ideas, you follow the socials, you read, their impact reports, you hear a lot of stories in the community, which is something that I love. Everybody has a connection to Chicano Federation. But once you jump in, it's a whole nother story, right? But I love it. I love the work that we do, in good times and in challenging times. At the end of the day, it really is about connection. This last year, I was reflecting on 2024. We had a flood that flooded Delta, one of our affordable housing properties, and we had over 70 of our tenants displaced. We were paying for their hotels, and really that was such an awakening moment for us, because it was really community, our neighbors, grassroots organizations that came through. We couldn't wait for government. We said, people, we're going to take care of our tenants and our community. And we're just so grateful for all of the partners that really helped us through that. And so I think, in times of challenge and especially in the new year that we're going into and the new presidency, more than ever, we need to be united. We need to work together, and we need to rely on each other.
Okay. What have I not asked you that you'd like people to know about the Federation?
Yeah, I want, people to know that the Federation is for everyone. We are here and we have our doors open. We have a resource center that we opened up 2 years ago where folks can come in and receive resources, whether it is through our programs or one of our partner organizations. We have a lot of friends that run excellent nonprofits that do great service. And for us, we want folks to know that they have a neighbor, a vecino, a vecina that's there for them. Our doors are open, and and anything that the community needs, they can connect with us, they can visit us, and we're there for them. They're not alone.
How can people learn more about your services?
Yeah, you can follow us on social media. So we have an Instagram account that we're really active, a Facebook account. You can also go on our website and sign up for our newsletters. We send out monthly newsletters. You can volunteer with us. We often have a lot of volunteer events, and you can come to one of our cafecitos. We host Café con Pan quarterly, where you can come learn about the new programs that we have. And how to get involved.
Where are your offices?
So our offices are in North Park. That's where our main administrative office is. And then we have our affordable housing buildings throughout and our preschool in Barrio Logan.
A year from now, where will the Federation be?
A year from now, I imagine the Federation is going to be really strong, working collaboratively with a lot of our partners. I really hope that we continue to build our affordable housing portfolio. We've been around for 56 years, and I know we're going to be here for another 56 and another 56 after that. And so I'm really looking forward to continue to grow the organization and continue to be here for all San Diegans.
Some of the growing pains when the Federation first started, it had a representative from every organization. Mm-hmm. GI Forum, Mexican American Educators, and the meetings would be marathons. We would get there at 7 and sometimes leave at midnight. But it was giving people a voice. And even though I don't recommend meetings that long, I think it was good that people had an opportunity to share ideas, and we saw things from different people's perspective.
Yes.
Because if you spend time with just the people that you're always with, it's basically one perspective.
Right.
But if you branch out.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And with our Get Out the Vote campaign, I mentioned that we brought in 20 different organizations. We had a post-election gathering. We hoped it was a celebration. It was a very different conversation. However, in that space, we all talked about the communities that we serve, the people that we serve, and how they were feeling, right? What are we hearing from our communities? So it was great to see different perspectives and different ideas and different needs that our communities have, right? But we can continue to work together to address those needs. For that reason too, this past year, I created a CEO advisory board, and it's made up of community members that participate in our different programs. So I have people that live in our affordable housing buildings. I have parents whose little ones go to our preschool, people that have gone through our workforce development programs, and they bring me their ideas. They bring me, they share what their neighbors are hearing, what the struggles are in the community, to really, put me to work. That's what I tell them. Put me to work. Tell me, how can we best serve you? And I think that that's what I love about the Federation, that we really listen to community voices, and that's how we direct where we're gonna go, right? I remember when I first started, I was only like 2 months into the job at Chicano Federation, and I had a lot of media asking me, what's your vision? What's your vision? And, my vision is really community driven, and it is, what do the people want? What do they need? That's where Chicano Federation will be.
Great. What have I not asked you either about yourself or about the Federation that you want us to know?
I just want to share that, we are going to continue to be here for people. I feel very honored to be a part of the organization. And I want to thank everyone that has been part of the organization. There's so many people that have been a part of the success of Chicano Federation. And I love to hear more stories. So if you're listening, if you're out there, let's meet for cafecito. Share with me your stories about Chicano Federation. I think the work that you're doing in documenting our history is so important, and I want to continue to do that because our history cannot be erased.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I started putting it into a book, Because the more you read or you try to find out about Latinos, the less there is.
Right.
You know, and it's maybe one person that they focus on, but we have so many people in our community that are doing really good things or have done good things. Liz, thank you for the time.
Gracias
I
a ti.
really appreciate it so much. And now you're part of our documented history.
Yes, yes,
Thank
I
you.
love that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to tune in to the We Made San Diego audio video podcast. Please subscribe. Visit our website, wemadesandiego.com, to learn more. My name is Maria E. Garcia. Adios.
Did you know we made San Diego?